Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AWS Public Sector Summit for 2019. My name is Peter Famagetti. I'm your room host. My colleague, Elsie Harrell, is sitting at the back. I want to just go through quickly. We have our emergency exits at the back. Washrooms are out the doors and to your right. If you would be so kind as to put your phones on silent. And if you haven't done so already, please download the AWS Americas app. We'd appreciate your feedback on the session. And you can also find a copy of the agenda for the rest of today and tomorrow. So for this session, I would like to turn it over to Keith to introduce our speakers.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yes? No? Are you tired? Yeah? So hopefully you guys enjoyed the first day of our 2019 Public Sector Summit. Right? Yeah. Actually, yeah, let's clap it up. My name is Keith Brooks, so I run business development. I'm senior manager, head of business development for AWS GovCloud US. And I want to thank you guys. I know it's late. I want to thank you for joining us for our session today titled Smartsheet, Transformation Through Innovation, Work Execution, and the Impact of Silos on Organizations. If you've attended any of my sessions or my team's sessions, either at prior public sector summits or other AWS summits, or quite frankly, even reInvent, you've likely noticed a few themes that we talk about, specifically as it pertains to GovCloud. And one of those themes that you've likely picked up on is how customers, both in the public sector and organizations in highly regulated industries, are increasingly not only using cloud and AWS and GovCloud to drive the cost efficiencies and some of the other benefits that you get with AWS, but increasingly they're using us and using AWS and using GovCloud to drive transformation and modernization and innovation, right, within their organizations. And one of those sub-themes that we increasingly focus on is the fact that our customers are not only looking for native capabilities on AWS, but they're starting to increasingly more acutely look for third-party solutions in the market that can help them in some of these innovation and transformation initiatives as well. And then, if you peel that back even further, there's this growing appetite for software as a service, or SaaS, or platform as a service, or PaaS solutions in the market as well. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to have Smartsheet, an AWS customer and an AWS partner, talk about how they're introducing the paradigm of work execution to drive a lot of that innovation and transformation in the spaces that we share. So as it pertains to GovCloud, it's specifically either public sector organizations or private industry in highly regulated industries, right? So as they're looking to take advantage of third-party capabilities, right, Smartsheet is going to come up and talk a little bit about their story and their capabilities and how their recent launch on GovCloud, hopefully some of you guys saw the announcement yesterday, and how their current status with FedRAMP is unlocking the public sector's ability to leverage work execution capabilities for their more sensitive, highly regulated, and highly compliant workloads. So this session is about them, not me, so I'll stop talking. And with that, I want to welcome up Mike Andrews, Senior Vice President at Smartsheet, to tell you a little bit about their story.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, I applaud you all for being here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Hopefully I won't hear any snoring. So as Keith said, my name is Mike Andrews, and I run our enterprise business globally, which includes our federal work. And I want to offer a perspective. So this is not going to be you're not going to hear me talk about bits and bytes and technical concepts. I'm going to talk about driving change. And I'm going to share a perspective that I've gained and my organization has gained in interacting with the largest organizations in the world. And I would suggest the need to transform or to fundamentally alter and change and pivot what you do and who you serve. This is an issue globally that whether you're in the public sector or private sector that organizations are facing, and the pressure that organizations are under to deliver value in new ways. And what I want to unpack a bit is what we see is really the 4 principles, call them critical success factors, that we're seeing organizations that are driving change effectively, what they're doing. And first would be around organizational mindset. Secondly, around transparency. Third, speed and agility. And finally, the ability to build partnerships. I would suggest that these four make up the how of driving transformation. I don't need to belabor what you all are facing every day in what you're doing, the need to create new ways to deliver services, to impact constituents, to enable your mission. There are fundamental structural changes happening that you all are having to deal with and to adapt and try to, in an agile manner, change. So with that, what I want to do is talk about and sort of level set what I would suggest the definition of innovation is. Innovation is simply the process of translating an idea or invention into a good or service that delivers value for the consumer or customer, and that end consumer readily acknowledges the value. Very simply, I would suggest that's the definition of innovation. Transformation, if innovation is the idea, transformation is the change that's required to deliver on the idea and to create the value. It's, if you will, the how of enabling change. So why is it so hard for organizations to change? First of all, I would suggest focus. Oftentimes, as organizations get built over time, they create an internal focus. It can start with a mission or a strategy, and over time, that creates the measurements, the metrics, and they're oftentimes have an internal nature to them, and they get reinforced by culture over time. And in many of the agencies where you all operate, you have folks who are tenured, who've been there a long time, and that secondly builds up this. I think the second issue is around organizational inertia. It's kind of this is the way it's always been done. And a lack of clarity, a lack of understanding of what's happening at the endpoint, where really the value is to be delivered, whether it's a consumer, a constituent, a patient, a soldier, not having an understanding of what is the perception of value at that endpoint and building the mission from there rather than in developing it inward and going out. I would tell you, in aggregate, that creates a legacy mindset, and then you build up legacy systems and processes and policies that just substantiate that internal focus and create a legacy mindset. And that culminates often in what I think is, really the silent killer, which is silos. The siloing of work, the siloing of information, the siloing of people, that is what I think cuts off creativity. It hampers the ability to innovate and to change and to drive change. So what we see is the issue isn't around mission, around what an organization, an agency wants to get done, but the issue is around the how, and specifically around the siloing of work. That, I would suggest, is an underappreciated but very significant issue, and it was built up over legacy systems and legacy tools and processes, and now as the siloing takes a different flavor as you move to the cloud. You see organizations that have hundreds or thousands of these web apps running around, all of which operate in a disparate manner and create friction and the siloing between individuals who are intended to work together and deliver on the mission. So let's talk about organizational mindset. Really, this starts with leadership. And what is the view? Is leadership setting out a clear path to realizing the mission? Is there a willingness to change, to embrace risk, the flexibility, the ability to adapt and seize opportunity, the ability to sort of play offense versus defense? What we see in organizations, again, whether commercial or in the public sector, that organizational mindset and that willingness to live into the vision, the mission, the strategy, what it is, the end you're trying to achieve, that is absolutely critical. And often what we see is the pivot point for that is the definition of value at the end point. So rather than defining the value from the inside out, having leadership and having a mission that says we are going to deliver value to the end consumer, the end constituent, the end patient, the end soldier, the end entity, and then driving the mission and driving the priorities from that mindset. The second thing I want to talk about is transparency. And I would tell you this issue cannot be, the value and importance of this cannot be overstated. I have literally sat with leaders, executives, who, when we talk about Smartsheet and what we enable, they get scared. It feels risky because done at scale, transparency creates accountability. You end up with a single version of the truth. There's no more opportunity to finger point. And if a leader's uncomfortable with that reality, they're going to resist it. And now you're back to organizational mindset, and you're going to have a really hard time fulfilling on your mission. And so we see work we're doing today with a very large food services agency that is defining programs for thousands of schools around the country. And what they've done is they've created the programs and then shared out that program and that the tracking of grant performance and the gaining of feedback. They've shared that out to the endpoint, to the actual schools, and welcome that feedback. Rather than funding and kind of crossing our fingers on what's happening, they actually have created mechanisms through Smartsheet to gain that understanding and then to be held accountable to the performance of those grants. Another example is the Oregon Department of State Lands. They're doing strategic planning in Smartsheet. They're sharing it across agencies, they're tracking it, and they're sharing it out and welcoming feedback so that everyone involved in the execution of that strategic plan has an understanding of the plan, the status of the plan. It's not a plan that sits on the shelf that once a year we define the plan and then it gets sort of put away. It's an active, ongoing process that, with the visibility and with the transparency, all involved in the execution of that plan are bought in, and they are committed to the achievement of the priorities laid out in the plan. The next element around the successful execution of change is around speed and agility. And I'll give you an example. One of our customers is Starbucks. Starbucks has 1,200 stores in South Florida. With Hurricane Irma, many of those stores were knocked out. And they had to figure out a way to connect with the store managers and the partners, that's what Starbucks calls their employees, the partners, to understand a couple things. Number one, are they okay? Are the partners okay? Is the store manager okay? Both individually and then their families, their where they live. And then secondly, what damage was sustained by the stores? So Starbucks created a form in Smartsheet that was accessible on any device, your phone, iPad, Android, laptop, desktop, and they sent that out to the 1,200 store managers. The feedback they got, the speed with which they did that was within a couple days. And if you've developed mobile apps, that's unheard of. They get it out to the 1,200 store managers. The feedback they got in a few instances was life-changing. The stories we heard, the stories went all the way up to Kevin Johnson, the CEO of Starbucks, because of the speed with which they could get to the endpoint, understand the reality of what was happening on the ground, gain that feedback. Two things happened. Those partners are more bought in than they've ever been because the stories we heard about helping people who'd been displaced from their homes, helping people who'd been injured, whose family members had been impacted. And Starbucks could reach those people and help them through that situation. That creates a bond, that creates a connection you just can't, action speaks louder than words. Secondly, they were able to, by way of capturing images of the damage that had occurred in the stores, they were able to submit, they launched a process through finance and operations and real estate to go back and recoup, through insurance claims, recoup millions of dollars that they otherwise would never been able to do because they couldn't do it in a timely manner. So that's the power. And if you think about in each of your organizations, your agencies, your missions, you think about the need to, at those points in time, often crisis creates opportunity, but the ability to connect with people who are in need, who need to be heard, who you want to understand and add value, that can be very, very powerful. Finally, the idea of creating partnerships. The ability to operate in the cloud And not only work within your agency or within your organization, but to create connections with parties outside of your organization who are critical to the fulfillment of your mission. So GSA is a very large customer of ours. One of the things that GSA does is manage over 40,000 public buildings. From engineering to construction to leasing to building management, that's a lot of external partners who are involved in that process. And they use our technology to create plans, to create programs where they stay connected and they actually can manage performance and have accountability and buy-in that they would never be able to do in the old sort of on-prem world where you would push a presentation or push a spreadsheet out and hope that it would come back completed. Again, that ability to collaborate across your supply chain from your vendors all the way through to your customers, that we're seeing that as a very compelling way to drive transformational change. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Amy Frampton to come up, our VP of Marketing. And I'm happy to share, and we can do Q&A. But again, these 4 principles: organizational mindset, transparency, speed and agility, and creating partnerships. As we look across the Global 2000 and both federal agencies, state and local government, these are the elements we're seeing for organizations that are being effective in fulfilling their missions, realizing market opportunity. They're doing these things. So with that, I'm going to bring up Amy Frampton, who is going to talk a little bit in more specific terms about how Smartsheet is enabling transformation, digital and otherwise.
Thanks, Mike. The official clicker. Thank you. So what I want to share with you today is a little bit about how Smartsheet looks at innovation and how we look at how we build our products, how that took us down the road to build our recently released FedRAMP product. And then I've got 2 great customers here with me today who are going to come up and talk a little bit about their use of Smartsheet in the public sector. So as we look at work today and as we talk to customers about how work is happening, whether you're commercial or public sector side, this is the breakout that we tend to hear about. There's about 40% of the work that is really well suited to a point solution, to an ERP system or a CRM system or an IT ticketing system. There are things that's just works great for, right? And then there's 60% of the work, and I think we all feel this, at least I know I have in my work, 60% and growing, that is way more dynamic, that those point solutions just can't solve for. And that work, I would suggest to you, is where a lot of the innovation and the transformation actually happens. And it happens across organizations, not just at the executive level, not just at the individual contributor level, but everywhere. And so we need something that gives us a flexible, buildable structure to that 60% and growing worth of work. Now, this kind of work has traditionally been managed through email or PowerPoints or docs. Who here has ever emailed a spreadsheet? Come on, admit it. I've totally done it too. And it's so frustrating when you're emailing things back and forth and then you got the wrong one and then you got, no, it's in this doc, no, I just did it. Everyone needs something for this 60% of work. And this is where the acceleration can really happen in terms of impacting on your missions, where innovation can happen and where change can happen. So who are the people that can cause this transformation and really innovate and execute and land it? Well, at Smartsheet, we believe everyone does. It's everyone in your department or in your business. Everyone impacts that, whether they're frontline workers, they're on the road, they're remote, they're in the office, or they're an executive. Everyone. So this is our purpose at Smartsheet, that when we wake up, this is what's on our walls. We think about, we empower everyone to improve how they work. There's 1 billion non-technical knowledge workers, so who aren't actually coding but need to get work done out there. And we want all of them to be able to innovate and move at the speed that they need to get transformation done. So how? This is how we develop our product. And it's just always, I always think it's interesting to hear how other people develop what they're selling. This is how we think about ours. First of all, start with the customer and work backwards. This is actually exactly why we went through this FedRAMP certification program. We heard from public sector customers, we want to use Smartsheet more, and if you get FedRAMP certified, we can. Focus on solutions versus features. For all of us that have worked in technology, it's super, super easy to get really dedicated and interested in features. I'm going to release this widget, this thing, this new feature, and we all love to talk about it. I've been in technology for 20 years. We love it. But really, it's about what is the solution that solves for the customer. Design for meaningful differentiation. So think about what else is out there and work to make a difference for your end user. Be both opinionated and adaptable. So that means have a point of view, but listen to that customer signal and feedback. And then validate with real customers before you build, so that you make sure that you're building what is most needed with your audiences. And then in the end, ownership equals execution. Everything needs a distinct owner, and using Smartsheet, of course, we believe you can do that, but that's something that we do internally as well, so that you know who's on point, so that things are transparent and people are accountable. So this is how we talk about Smartsheet. I'm not going to go deep into these slides because I want to get these customers up here. That's really the good stuff of my portion of the presentation. But these are the 4 pillars that we talk about when we talk to our customers about how we work at Smartsheet. First, making collaboration work. That's breaking down the silos that Mike talked about earlier. Second, making better decisions faster. That's all about that transparency piece. Like, all of us want to make better decisions, but we don't want to make them slower. We don't want to go fast and make really crappy decisions. We want better decisions and we want the speed. And so that transparency is super important. Automating work processes at Smartsheet is all about that portion of the work that we all do where you're reminding someone, hey, can you do this? Can you update this? Did this get approved? All of that sort of work all can be done in Smartsheet. You can automate those workflows and then make sure that you are spending your time on things that are more important for both for your own personal progress and achievement and for the business. And then deploy with confidence. You know, we are in 75% plus of the Fortune 500, and with our FedRAMP certification, we feel like it's really important for our customers to be able to deploy us across their agency or organization with confidence. So this is how we look at the Smartsheet platform, and it's all about being able to capture information, report on that information, execute on that information across the board. And you can see there's all sorts of features here. But the bottom line is making sure you've got a work execution platform that can speed up your opportunity for innovation. And we have lots of use cases because we focus on that 60% plus of unstructured or dynamic work. We're in the thousands of use cases. So whether you're working in operations or procurement or administration, some of the use cases you're going to hear about today, it's a very flexible system. And so we have over 2,000 we've documented. Some people have said over 3,000. Bottom line, it's flexible and able to be used how you need it. So we built out Smartsheet Gov, and we built it on the AWS Gov Cloud. And we did that for a bunch of reasons. First of all, Gov Cloud with AWS is already certified at a high level for FedRAMP. That was really important to us. AWS has been a terrific partner with us. But we also got asked by so many of our customers, gosh, I'm using you in little ways, but I could use you so much more if you would get FedRAMP certified. So we made the decision to go for that. We were lucky enough to be selected by the JAB for an accelerated program, one of 4 companies, and the only work execution platform to be selected for FedRAMP at this point. We went through the certification, I would say it was quickly. Probably the people working on it more detailed might not say it was quickly, some of the folks in the room. But we did have an accelerated process. We started last August with AWS, and we are in market today. So, oh, whoa, that was crazy. So as we look at why did we build in GovCloud, obviously we're looking to give the security both with the data and with the user controls that our public sector customers need. We're very excited to share this with you. These are customers that are already working with us, everywhere from fire departments to GSA at the federal level, to cities, to land use. Across the board, these are use cases that are already using Smartsheet. And we believe we're federal government ready now that we have this certification. So we've been in process. We're just about to get our ATO authorization at the moderate level with FedRAMP. As I mentioned, built on the AWS cloud. And we're looking to build FedRAMP certified now, but as we continue to add additional features to our commercial product, we will get those certified as well and move those into our Smartsheet Gov product. So why is it the right product for the job or the right tool for the job? First of all, it's simple. All of us have used a grid interface, and we've used that, whether it's Excel or it's Sheets. It's very simple to get going on Smartsheet Gov. It increases transparency, whether in your agency or your organization, and it's super flexible, no coding required. It is secure. We have that FedRAMP certification, and it allows people to work in real time, and you can get it up and running same day. That's what we see, and that's what we hear from our customers as the key reasons for using Smartsheet. Now, as I mentioned, we are built on AWS. We do have the AWS government competency, and we're in the partner network in the advanced here as well. That partnership is super important to us. So before I bring up our customers who are going to tell you about their situations and how they're using Smartsheet and their use cases, I have to tell you a little story about when I met Jada. So she's grimacing, but the joke's on me, so it's fine. So we got on a call last week, and I hadn't talked to Jada directly before, and we were getting ready for this, and I said, I'm so excited to meet you. And I actually worked for the federal government as well out of college. That was my first job. I worked for the federal government for about a decade. And I really think public sector and public service is really important. And she said to me, what'd you do? And I said, I worked for the Congress. And she goes, it's kind of marginal on the public service thing. It's kind of marginal. So fair enough. I'll take that. I think that's probably fair. And with that, I want to introduce Jada and Chris to come up and join me on stage. Come on up, guys. We thought it was public service. I was in my 20s. I think they're going to grab you some handheld ones. Great, thank you. Is this on? Awesome. So to start out, just tell us a little bit about what each of you do and what your companies do, but then in your organizations, and then also the roles that you play.
Sure. So I'm privileged to be the Chief Information Officer of the Legal Services Corporation. We're a nonprofit that was created in 1974 by Congress. Our mission is to grant money to local legal service providers who provide civil legal aid to people below the poverty level. We give out about $390 million a year. So I have really grown to love our mission, and it's a very important thing. My role, we enable the business at LSC. We provide the technology around grant making, grants oversight, and all the back-end stuff that normal CIOs do, email, document management, and everything else that people need every single day.
So my name is Chris Curley, Director of Supply Chain over at Northrop Grumman Innovation Systems. So we have innovation in our name. I saw Mike kid that earlier, so that was good. We do a lot of innovation there. Northrop Grumman Innovation Systems, formerly Orbital ATK, formerly Orbital Sciences, a lot of public sector work. We deliver cargo to the space station. We provide a lot of our warfighters with the munitions, both small caliber and medium caliber. So we're doing a lot of space-based stuff. Over in our Dulles campus, our primary mission is space systems, where we deliver both telecommunication, geosatellites, as well as some some of the classified look down, look up type of small sets that we're building. So my role there is Director of Supplier Management. I run the what we call Supply Chain Program Management Team, which is our customer-facing team for our procurement organization. I work directly with our customers, both internal and external, making sure that we're giving them what they need on time as far as a procurement path, getting their material in-house, getting it to where we need it, excuse me, getting to where we need it on time and at the right value.
So as you think about transformation, I'd love it if you would each just tell us a little bit about what are you seeing as opportunities in transformation and trends?
What we're seeing from the public sector is really a focus on schedule. You know, from the commercial side, we've seen that for years, but lately here, last couple of years, our non-commercial public sector customers have really come to us and said, we've got an idea, we want to go do this. And our typical space systems, multiple years, 4, 5, 6 years, they're looking for a working prototype of the idea in about 12 months and then something on orbit in about 24. So it's really challenged us on trying to transform our organization.
I think there are two in my space of nonprofit. One is cloud. In our space, we can't afford to run our own servers. So we're pushed to the cloud, and I love it because I no longer have to worry about that stupid server room where the sprinklers could destroy my servers any day. That's one thing. And the other thing that I love is sort of a democratization of IT. Something like Smartsheet really allows that because my IT staff, which is 10 people, we're really small, 2 developers, we can do development work. We can build the APIs between systems. We can do the things that we should be doing, and we enable our users to create all sorts of things that they can use to do their business.
So as a follow-up, what opportunities do you see? I mean, you mentioned a few opportunities. As you see in terms of transformation or as your customers come to you, public sector customers, what are the opportunities but also the challenges that come through this transformation?
So around democratization, one of the challenges is I still have to keep up with what they're doing because they're creating data that I need in other places. So as an example, our users have built these dashboards around the visits that they take, and they oversee our grantees that way. I still need to be able to get that data and put it in other systems so we can use it and report on it. So I just keep track of what they're doing. We have open communication, and then I build an integration where I can pull that data into other systems.
For us, it's really about updating, or I should say improving our operational performance, right? So the schedule crunch, as Mike kind of alluded to earlier, was the transparency, the accountability, who's on point, who's actually doing that. So we're actually using Smartsheet to kind of get that out in the open. No more emailing the spreadsheets around, hoping somebody fills it out. We've got the workflows in effect where due dates are there. Can we do that? We get a lot of good feedback from our customers as well as our internal folks as far as what needs to happen. But that's the real challenge we have, is just upping our game.
And what other pressures do you think your customers are dealing with in terms of that time pressure?
Yeah, I mean, technology is changing fast, right? So I think that's, what's really driving them is as far as some of the ideas they've got, some of the missions they want to solve have to be done before it's OBE. So I think they're looking for, can we get this done? And some of the things we've seen is where that idea will spawn other ideas, right? So one thing leads to another. So I think they're trying to take a look at, what can they get done with the available funding and the available amount of time.
And Jada, as you look at your constituency and the citizens that you're serving, what does the speed and the democratization of IT do for them, do for your team, but also for your constituents?
Honestly, it makes us collaborate better. Everybody kind of knows what's going on because they have access to all of our information that's in Smartsheet. And so it really has brought some of the teams together for the work that they're doing.
And have you seen this change in terms of, the work that's being done? Have you seen a change in terms of the need for quicker speed and moving to the cloud and transformation. How has that gone over your time at Legal Services?
So I was really lucky. The CIO before me at Legal Services was very forward-thinking and had already started the movement to the cloud, and I am just finishing up his work around that, and I'm happy to be doing that. But I think everybody does expect things to go quicker, and they're so much happier when they don't have to wait for IT. They know their business processes, and they can get things done. And that helps us get things done quicker.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, sorry, Jada. The cloud for us has provided transparency. It's one source of the truth, as Mike said, and that's really been important from a supply chain standpoint. I deal what I call in the realm of hallway sound bites, right? One of my guys will hear something or get told something, and they spend the rest of the day trying to data mine and figure out what does that mean. So having that in the cloud, having that, kind of that one source, that's our first stop now. We go there, we take a look at it, we go, well, that doesn't make any sense what they said. Here's what the data shows us. So, pick up the phone, get on the call with them, kind of really, it brings it to a head very quickly and doesn't let it linger, which has been helpful, yeah.
And what would your advice be for folks who are thinking about, either moving into the cloud or moving to a more no-code, thinking about transformation? What would your advice? I'd love to hear your advice for the group.
I think for us, I would definitely advise moving that direction. To me, it's been very transformational, right? It's that one source of the truth. One of our latest things at Northrop Grumman is to start pushing agile. And so we've been able to use the Smartsheet tool in a very agile type of way where it doesn't take a lot of coding on the back end. We had an idea, we spawned it in about 8 to 10 weeks. We had it in the user's hand and are getting feedback. So it's been really good from that standpoint, not taking 6 months or a year to kind of figure out what we need, but be able to really drop it in their hands and say, okay, does this dashboard work? Does that work? What do you like here? And get that feedback real time and kind of get it captured.
And can you share a little bit about that use case?
So our use case really revolves around supply chain material management. And we have very disparate databases where we capture the data, as everybody does. So you get a little bit of data here, you got to go here to get the next piece of data. So we're using the Smartsheet tool to really kind of combine those databases into one view of the world, one view of the truth, and then use that really from using some of the dashboards to kind of give management how things are going. So a lot of the program managers, I get some nasty calls from them all the time. So basically saying, that you got my stuff here as red. And I go, well, okay, well, let's take a look at it, right? Let's delve into the data. And so it turns out, yeah, you're behind on a lot of these things. So, and then the alerts notifications are helping huge, where we can really point to people, say, hey, you missed this date. That's why the flag went up. So it's been really helpful from that standpoint, just driving accountability within the organization.
And I would say to everybody, just go to the cloud. I know in the federal government, we're always worried about security. But it changes your life. It changes your business. My users love using something like Smartsheet as opposed to, our old Access databases where they have to get a programmer to go and change something if they want to use it differently. They have to access it from on-site because they can't get to it from, when they're sitting at a conference or when they're at home. And I've had users say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. You need to put that in a Smartsheet. And so that's how everything is going.
Now, do you have any external folks using Smartsheet?
We do. So we collaborate with our vendors over Smartsheet. We do things like we use Box and Smartsheet. So they will put their deliverables in the folder we have created for them in Box. We will have a Smartsheet where we track who's reviewing it, when they've reviewed it, if there are any comments, and we just continue to go back and forth on those sorts of things. Like we're writing a list of requirements to go out in an RFP for a grants management system. And so my vendor has created a Smartsheet with all of the requirements. As we review each one, we turn it to green, or we have a question on this, and we just work that way. And it makes it so much easier.
And Chris, I'm sure you're working with external folks. with your customers?
We work with our customers, and we're getting on our roadmap is to link them into Smartsheet, yeah.
Great.
So same as JD here with our vendors. We get a lot of deliverables from them. Right now, unfortunately, we use SharePoint to kind of catalog those, so that's pretty painful. But our goal, one of our what I call our phase 2, is to get our vendors on Smartsheet, yeah.
Great. Are there questions from the group for our customers or any of us at Smartsheet? Yes. Can you show it? Can I show Smartsheet? Yeah. I think that I can. Can I? I mean, I can, but can I? So we have a booth downstairs with all the demos, dashboards, everything set up. So that's probably the best way to go.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things that is interesting is I got to LSC a year and a half ago, and they had a few licenses of Smartsheet, and they were playing with, what does it do? And my team said, this is really important. This could really help us. And I said, well, what the heck is it? What does it, how does it help us? I don't understand. This doesn't go in one of the boxes that I know of from federal government IT, because I worked big IT for 20 years. And, it's not a spreadsheet. It's not, well, it's all of those things. So we use it for, instead of spreadsheets, we use it for our vulnerability management process. We track all of our vulnerabilities in a spreadsheet. We do our onboarding and offboarding process in a spreadsheet. So we've created a form that HR fills out when someone new is coming on, and that goes into the spreadsheet, into the Smartsheet. And so I had a hard time wrapping my head around what box does this fit in and what is this? But once I figured it out, I was quite happy.
I like that. So we have built some custom pieces down at the booth. I'd encourage you to go down and take a look. Other questions? Yes.
Which of the principles do you, that you were talking earlier, which of those principles do you see public sector organizations struggle with the most? The innovation, transformation, silos, you can give us some insights into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can tell you from my experience, but I think it's better if the customers speak. Yeah, sure.
I think from our standpoint, probably the silos, organizational stuff. We've got still a lot of people out there that like to hold on to their stuff, and when I start talking about transparency and accountability and trust, I get that kind of that evil eye. So to me, that's one thing I think they're really struggling with is that. Yeah.
I do think that's human nature, by the way. I don't think that's just the public sector.
And I have to agree with that. Even in our small organization, we're 140 people, I'm shocked daily by our folders are locked down by our group. Why? Why are you siloed? And so we have an issue with that, and I'm on sort of a mission to just open it up to everybody, unless you tell me why everybody shouldn't see it.
Yes.
What are the common integrations with other software that you find yourself doing?
Yeah.
Like project management software?
Yeah. You want to answer what you're
So-
using? I can talk more broadly.
So sure, we actually use Salesforce, and so we have a connector between Salesforce and Smartsheet. Like I said, people are creating data in Smartsheet that I want, and I want it in Salesforce, and so we have built an integration with the connector, and I'll let.
Chris, are you using any integrations?
We are. So we use Deltek's CostPoint for our ERP system. So we're using a data uploader right now to ingest our ERP data on a daily basis. We're also using Salesforce from our proposal standpoint. Don't have it integrated yet, but we're looking to get that integrated as well.
And then in terms of the platform, we've got connections and integrations with Salesforce, with Jira. Data Uploader pulls a lot from third-party systems. Also, a lot of chat and messaging, whether it's Microsoft Teams, or it's Google Chat, or it's Slack, those sorts of things. And then we've got an open API, so we can build custom work. We've got almost 100 integrations and connectors at this point. I've got my partner guy down here looking at me, making sure I get all the right ones. Other questions? really appreciate you joining us today. And big thank you to Chris and Jada for joining us.
Thank you.